Hey, welcome to the Art Condition Podcast, a weekly show that will discuss the business, community, and often undiscussed stress and mental health concerns of being a professional artist or even a serious hobbyist. I'm Joby. I've been in the tattoo and illustration professions for 25 years. My co-host is Moose, a data analyst, social media manager, and art agent. If you enjoy the content, please consider visiting the Patreon page in the show notes to help support the effort. Or if that's not an option, please like, subscribe, leave a good review, or just share with your friends. And definitely go visit the links of our guests on this episode. Thanks for listening and have a great day. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for coming to do this. This is going to be awesome. I've actually been looking forward to this conversation amongst many. And we're going to be talking today a lot about conventions, online conventions, but also like how you guys are managing life as a professional artist, independent artist in general in this like bizarre world and the new normal of COVID. But before diving too deep into all of the fancy schmancy, who are you guys? Wade, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. My name is Wade Acuff, and I'm an artist and illustrator, but also do animation and motion graphics. That's a little bit of a lot of things to pay the bills. So that's where we are.
Sarah.
All right, I'm Sarah Dahlinger, and I do creature design, and I work in both 2D and 3D, and I also do scientific illustration, which is great because studied a ton of anatomy, so that informs the creature design. I'm a huge anatomy nerd. That pretty much sums me up.
And last but not least, Leslie, please.
Hi, my name is Leslie. I also go by Mighty May online. I'm a fantasy artist. I am working on a tarot card deck as well as a whole bunch of fantasy creature design series. I kind of do my own thing. I'm not really working for any company. I use a variety of different platforms to fund my projects. So that's me.
So you all have a pretty would significant be a fair description of the amount of experience that you guys have with conventions, going to art conventions specifically?
Yeah, I've been doing it for a while. I think my first convention was 2007. So that was quite a while ago now.
I'm actually pretty new. I kind of started dipping my toes in 2018, 2019, and 2020 was actually supposed to be my big year. Like I got into all the shows I wanted to get into, so it was kind of like wah wah for me.
Yeah, well, that'll.
I'm somewhere in the middle. Sorry.
No. Go ahead.
I'm somewhere in the middle. I've been doing it for quite a few years now. I would say 4 or 5 years now. Most of my experience is in more of the Renaissance fair side of things, but I have started to branch into more of the kind of more mainstream conventions, I would say.
A quick aside, what can you make a differentiation there? Like what is the more mainstream conventions versus what your experience is in the past?
So I would say like more like anime conventions and comic book conventions, fantasy conventions like Dragon Con and Gen Con. I'm starting to try to get into there. This is my first year doing Dragon Con, for instance, and it's quite the experience.
What a year.
Yeah.
Good year to start trying to get into that stuff.
All right. So I like with these kinds of things, I like to take a minute to pretend that this is the first time that I've been introduced to, like, if it's a concept that is that we kind of take for granted, and we all know what we're talking about when we're talking about art conventions, and maybe a greater cross section of the population would be vaguely or very familiar with comic book conventions, but the type of art conventions that might happen outside of that might not be as crystallized. And while there's some similarities, maybe Wade, since you have maybe the most experience among us, can you walk us through a little bit, like, what is an art convention? Why do you guys like to go to them?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I do have a lot of experience from going and just attending as well. But if you were approaching this from I've never been, a lot of them are the smaller ones are pop culture style conventions. Everything goes, sci-fi, fantasy, you name it. They probably have something there. The bigger ones anyway, like the Dragon Cons and some of the Gen Con. Gen Con's mostly for gaming, but it encompasses a lot in gaming. But as far as the artist standpoint or perspective, you get a lot of if you're working in fantasy art or even sci-fi or whatever your genre is, you'll get a lot of eyes that may have not seen you. That's one of the things. For instance, like I've never done Dragon Con, but I've attended for over 10 years. It's one of those places where I'll go in artist alley as an artist and I'll see people I've never seen before or heard of, but that's my introduction. And so from there you can, follow them, follow their artistic journey. So, I mean, for me, it's one of those places that even if I'm attending as an artist or just attending as, just someone going, I don't know, it kind of gives you that perspective or hey, we're all in this together. We can, as an artist, you can get there and present and show your work, but having a little bit of perspective from the other side of the table, I don't know, I try to bring that to it, but I'm kind of getting lost in my own words here.
No, you're doing fine.
I think the original question was, what's a con? Well, it's a little bit of everything depending on where you're going. I'll just for Gen Con, it's a gaming convention. They have a lot of people, artists there, but also vendors that sell games. Let's see, and Leslie could probably talk about this. I've also done a lot of Ren fairs, and it's a completely different thing. So I'll let her talk about that. But I don't know. For me, it's one of those. There's different little aspects of cross culture that you can be introduced to at a convention. I don't know if that answered any of that question, but that's kind of where my brain went. So.
No, not at all. I'm going to disconnect you now, Wade. Thanks.
Good to see you guys.
No, that I think that does a lot, but yeah, sort of speaking to that point of different conventions being very different from each other. They all share some similarities, but like Wade said, Leslie, you've been to some Ren fairs, and those have like a particularly unique sort of flavor. Can you tell us what those are like?
I think like the purpose of the Ren Fair is mostly to transport you to like a different time, a more fantasy type setting. But, everyone's in garb and everyone's talking in the accent. And I think a big difference between the Ren Fair and like a regular convention is most of the Ren Fairs that I've been part of are juried. So they usually try to keep only a certain amount of each type of wear there so that there's more variety. Everything is handmade, but it's not just art. There's sculpting, there's blacksmithing, there's metalworking. There's just so much there, and there's such a huge variety, but they try to keep it so that there's not a lot of overlap and there's not a lot of competition in any one particular space. So it's very, very different. You don't have quite the cutthroat kind of competition as you'd have in a normal convention.
And that's an interesting choice of words, cutthroat. Wade, have you ever felt like you've been in Thunderdome at any of these, or?
I I don't like to think of art as a competition, but we all know when it comes to, selling things, of course, there's a little bit like, hey, look at this table, looks, more appealing, or whatever the case may be. But I wouldn't necessarily say cutthroat, but I get the idea. There are a lot of things blending, like you see a lot of the same. Uh, Especially, I kind of notice it more on more, I want to say local as opposed to smaller cons. You see a very much, I don't know what it is. I don't know exactly, but there's seems to be, quite a bit of overlap, to use Leslie's phrasing. So there's that disadvantage, I guess, to, being in a place with a lot of artists that it's kind of, come one, come all situation.
Mm-hmm. So that's sort of like painting a bit of a picture of what traditional conventions have been like for you guys in the past. I have had a hard time sort of wrapping my head around the online conventions now. I've been a spectator, at a couple here and there, mainly ones that have taken place on Discords. And even being present, it can be sort of hard to be like, what's going on and where do I go and how do I see things and how do I talk to, you know what I mean? Like, so to the best of your ability, maybe each one of you guys, because Sarah, I don't want you to feel left out of this line of questioning. What are people actually like experiencing when they are going to an online convention? Like I know nothing about this. Pretend that I'm absolutely totally ignorant. What am I doing and what am I seeing when I'm attending an online convention? Wait, you can give it a shot.
So I only have, there's a very small sample size. It's only this year, right? So for as far as attending, as a vendor, I did Gen Con. I attended Dragon Con and was a presenter at Lightbox. So I'll just kind of go briefly through each one of those. I would say you hit it right on. It's kind of hard to know when you're, especially in the attending space. It's hard to know when you're there, when you're interacting, active, because everything was happening on Discords. For Dragon Con, what they did was kind of cool in a way that they still had events they would normally have. So they have at Dragon Con has a parade every year. They still did a parade. They did a virtual parade where they had people, and they had their Dragon Con TV. Anybody that has been to Dragon Con would know that Dragon Con TV is the channel you leave it on in your hotel. As you leave, you just leave it on all the time. It has panels that you either couldn't get to or wasn't sure you wanted to see, but they're showing it live, or pre-recorded. They have multiple channels now. So they still had the Dragon Con TV that you could watch through, I can't remember what service, but you could watch that. So they did a parade, same time they normally do it. What they did was they had people send in videos of them walking across the screen all the same direction in their cosplay, and they did a big edit of it and put it all together. But they had the announcers, they have hosts just like a regular parade. They had never seen it, so they just hosted it live. And it was one of those like, hey, this is like attending. This is what a virtual attendance is. So as far as that segment for Dragon Con, that was great. Gen Con was a little different. I didn't actually play any of the games, but I did stream. So it didn't really feel like an attending situation. But Lightbox was another high point. They used everything. They went through Discord mainly for what they did, but they had halls set up, and they were doing a lot with their where you could draw with artists like industry professionals, and they had different levels of people. I think there was like a VIP area and some other stuff, but you would hop in and chat with people while you were drawing, or you could just hop in and listen to people talk. It was pretty interesting. I didn't actually get to see the vendor floor. I heard that was really cool, but I actually didn't get a chance to check that out. But anyway, that's kind of my take on what I've seen this year online. But as far as attending, it is hard to know because one little note about the Lightbox thing. I was just hopping around in the Discord, and you didn't know if you were like could jump in a conversation. The one that I did, I was very welcomed, so I could see people getting used to that. But it is hard to know about, like, am I actually attending? What's the thing I'm supposed to be doing here? But anyway, that's.
So Sarah, you were saying that you're sort of like new to the convention circuit generally. What was your experience going into this whole new world that everybody's sort of unfamiliar with, but you're kind of like on this extra level of new territory? Yeah, you've been to conventions as a spectator in the past?
Oh, I actually did a couple conventions. So I did I've done a couple local stuff, and then my first big one was Monsterpalooza in Burbank.
Oh, right on.
That was a great one to do. And then I got into Gen Con this year and Dragon Con this year, so they were going to be like my next big ones, but obviously they went virtual. So I mean, I can compare that with the actual Monsterpalooza I did. Oh, and Monsterpalooza got pushed back too. I think the like it was so strange because you expect to, like, you hope to make an actual connection with someone,
Right.
and that was my biggest hurdle was one thing I noticed is I did a local con called Total Con, um, and it was my second. It squeaked in like in February this year, so it was like my second time going, and I noticed there was a huge difference. Like people were like, "Oh, I remember you," and "Oh, we talked about this last time," and I noticed that my sales increased, and so I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna have Monsterpalooza Take 2 this year, and that'll be better." And then it switched to online, and I noticed that none of that was able to happen because I didn't think, like, people couldn't figure out how to actually get to me. I think, like, I streamed all of Gen Con. Like, I was on all the time, and I was always on Twitch, and I was like, "Come chat with me." And I don't think people actually, like, the attendees actually got it. Like, I don't think they understood that they could speak with me.
Right.
So that was kind of a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
That's one of the things with online cons. With conventions, in-person conventions, they're going to be walking around the floor and they'll stumble upon you. With online, it's a lot more. You have to know where you're going to get there.
Yeah, I noticed that was a huge problem because I'm talking to my other friends, and if they had already been, they were seeing people that they knew, and people were finding them, and I had never been to Gen Con or Dragon Con, so my name was just like a in the sea. So it was a little tricky that way.
How about you, Leslie?
Yeah, I actually looked up.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, your Gen Con, I did the same thing. I streamed all through Gen Con. Don't really know if it helped, but I actually went back and looked at where where people were coming from Gen Con, like the numbers. And over the 4 days that I streamed, I think we had a total of 138 people total that came from the Gen Con portal. So not a lot. So, it was difficult to find people.
That's to your website?
Yeah, you can look at your statistics on Twitch and see where those viewers come from.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's from the Gen Con portal.
Oh, I see. Okay,
that they had open for us.
I see. Right. Yes. This is part of the disconnect that I have. I'm still like, trying to wrap my head around it, and a lot of this conversation is to like try and paint the picture for people that one, like, haven't been attending these things, or two, are also going to be just like listening, and might be inexperienced with this in the first place. And so you guys were saying that most of them have happened on Discord. Like the couple that I've seen have that's where it's been happening. Have they all so far been basically Discord?
I know Dragon Con was mostly Discord. They had a huge room with tons of people, thousands and thousands of people, and the chat rooms in there were flying. I actually didn't stream at all during Dragon Con, and I relied mostly on, they had a special artist alley room set up in the Discord where you could post promotional images and anything about your product or what you were doing, and have interactions with the attendees through the Discord rooms. And that was really, really good. I enjoyed that a lot. And I felt like I got quite a few people coming out from the Discord room going to my, I think it was Event Any storefront page. They had like a cohesive, streamlined page where everyone set up their products, and it worked out really good.
Oh, see, now that's good to know, because I did the other thing. I streamed during Dragon Con, and I think it did nothing. Like, I don't think it helped me at all. So apparently Discord is a winning ticket.
So I'm an attendee at one of these conventions. I'm going to Dragon Con online. Again, forgive the simplicity of like these sort of preliminary questions, but like I want to go see Gen Con online. What am I doing first? Like, how do I even like, were they selling tickets on like gencon.com, and then like there would be a link to the Discord, and that's how I would make the connection, or what?
So Gen Con, I don't know if Sarah, you can talk to this as well, but
yeah, no, I was just using Gen Con as an
Gen-
example, like, and just, you know, any of these.
Well, I picked Gen Con out because it's a little felt a little different. They tried to because they're a gaming convention for the most part, and their ticketing system is set up differently than most cons because people are going to play games, but they also have to pay their DMs and, you know, people that are running games. So it's a little bit different. So they would have, if you were new, I couldn't imagine navigating it not knowing this, because I was there in person. When my first time I went, I was like, wait, so you bought a ticket, but then you still had to get tickets to play games. So it was this whole other level. But as far as, you know, this is an art related conversation. It was a little weird in the fact that to get to they kind of had their, I forget what they called it. Sarah, you can help me out here. They had like a portal where you could put all your images up, and it was like a big layout that you could navigate and select different artists.
I think it was Looking Glass, right? I called it the Looking
That's
Glass.
it.
And they had
That's
like
it.
this. I think it was like an attempt to being cool, but it was kind of hard to navigate. And they had like everyone's little icon and like this giant kind of globe thing, and you could float over it to, you know, kind of peruse what was going on. But it was so big. When I looked at it to try and find myself, I was like, just, it was so much little icons everywhere, and they're tiny, so you can barely see them. So it was really hard to use that to find. They did have a list on the side of like people's names and their links, but the actual interface, I don't think really helped anyone.
Yeah, that, and it was like 4 separate. If you went to Gen Con on gencon.com or whatever, it was like 4 or 5 separate clicks just to get to the portal.
Huh.
So that was already kind of.
That seems really weird. Like you are.
I mean,
they
had it.
Gen Con. Oh,
What's that?
Oh, I didn't invent the Gen Con, but I did try to navigate it, and I was so overwhelmed by that portal thing that I didn't even get anywhere. I kind of just left and just watched Wade's stream.
It seems strange, you know, that like, okay, you are the convention. You know, it's not it. You're the one. Like, this is where people are going. Like, that would just be like item number 1 on your to-do list. Like, make the numbers of clicks that people have to like do to get to where they need to go as little as possible. Like, this is internet 101, right? Like, who's who needs to get fired for that one? But I mean, being a jerk aside, I also want to give like some latitude to whoever is putting these things on, because it is so new and this is such a unique experience, and trying to juggle all of the variables and logistics, I'm sure like had to be a freaking nightmare for, you know, for the poor people that were responsible for trying to give this some semblance of usability. And yeah, so I on the one hand, it's like a lot of these things just seem like obvious gimmies, you know, like don't do this. that's obvious. But then on the other hand, it's like, well, all right, this is a little bit crazy. This is kind of mayhem. But now one thing that you guys were saying was that so you're streaming during the conventions, or some of you were streaming, some of you weren't. For I guess, okay, for those who were streaming, or for those who like went to other people's streams via the convention, there was a link that people could get to your stream from. So I'm in the Discord where the main convention is being hosted, and then I find Wade in one of these rooms, and then I'm able to go to your live Twitch stream from there.
With the Gen Con thing, I did promote myself every day because they had a self-promo part. That is the only way from the Discord you could get to me. So you had to see that. And there was, you know, it's Discord. There's no shout out for it. It's just you have to see it. So from that, yeah, you could get to my Twitch page. But otherwise, it was straight through the Gen Con portal.
The other thing about that was on that promo page for Gen Con, if you were streaming, you could be on the promo page and you could see what I would be doing, or any artist would be doing, but you weren't in the Twitch stream. Like you were seeing like an embed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like those people were brought in to chat or subscribe or follow or anything. Like they could just be watching on their embed on Gen Con and not even and like not even know that like you could click and get to my Twitch and, you know, have all that going on too.
So we're talking a lot about what went wrong with these conventions. Whether it's something that you guys took part in yourselves, or experienced with a different convention that you didn't attend or take part in, what did people do well? Was there anything?
I think Lightbox really did well. Like I attended Lightbox, and Lightbox isn't like a gaming con, it's more like an artist conference, and it was all tutorials like nonstop. And I loved the way that you could put them on your Google Calendar, automatically get noticed, click the link, automatically go to the lecture. And then they were really cool about recording them, many of them, and posting them later. So it was just like this absolute flood of high quality knowledge that you had just for a whole weekend. It was magical. Lightbox really killed it.
Leslie, what did you think of what did you think of DragonCon overall?
As far as like positives for the DragonCon experience, again going back to the cohesive storefront, I actually didn't like the idea when I first read about it. I'm like, I already have a storefront. I really don't want to have to put the time and effort into making a second one. Why can't they just link to my storefront? But after doing it, I think that it was a positive. I think that having that cohesive feel to it, having like one shopping cart where they can see all of the products that they want to buy, they can kind of compare, they can take things out of there if they're like over what their budget is. It feels like more like going into an event. And when you think about it, going to a whole bunch of people's different stores, each store is going to be kind of formatted different. It's going to be harder to navigate each one because you're just going to have to figure out where everything is. But when it's all cohesive and it's all the exact same, it's really easy to find the things that you want to. So I really thought that that was a really positive aspect of the DragonCon. And even though it did take a lot longer to set up, I think I put a day aside for it. I kind of just focused on a few products, like a couple series, my biggest series, my newest series. And then I tried to make sure that I had different price points in there so that I had every type of buyer covered. And like I said, I put up probably 40 pieces max so that I didn't overwhelm anyone with too many decisions. And it worked out well.
Wade, how about
Wait, did you
you?
have any positive experiences with any of these?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just to Lightbox killed it. Even on like from the presenter side, they sent me every piece of information I would have needed. Like and any emails I sent were right back in response. Perfect. I just wanted to give a shout out too to Dragon Con just from because that's my kind of vacation con. Um, they weren't going to have. I mean, they were still going to try and do. I think they were the last minute convention this year that decided, okay, no, we're going virtual, and I was like, it's going to be not good, but they threw something together, and we watched several panels, and they were great. So just like Joby was saying, just the fact that they put all the work into it, even though not everything was perfect, at least it was still an event. But anyway, got to hand it to them.
Yeah, that's one thing too, is like I know we're ragging on some a little bit, but like it was really obvious that the people who did Gen Con and Dragon Con and Lightbox, hours and hours and hours of work. Like I total respect for what they were trying to do.
Yeah, and Gen Con was the same way. Any email I sent, questions, immediate answers. So they were on it.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's fair enough to not dwell too much on the negative. I guess my inclination would be a constructive critique, just because who knows how long this is going to be the normal, and what the future is going to be like, and having that kind of like feedback, I would definitely want to make a note to everybody listening. Like it wasn't my intent, and I don't think it's anybody's intent who's here on this podcast episode to disparage like anybody's effort, or to be like, oh, this sucks, and certainly not that. If anything, if there's any context to the criticisms, it would be like, okay, just moving forward, here are some things to keep in mind, and then hearing directly from the artists that were there and experiencing it. That would obviously be the best source of information from, and I'm sure that they're getting lots and lots of feedback on that already, and a lot of it probably is not very nice and and crappy. So while I think the criticism is important, I want to emphasize that this isn't intended to just be like pooping on their parade. But when you guys go to conventions normally, I want to kind of take it back to the real world, the normal. When you guys go to conventions, typically, what kinds of things do you guys do to try and grab people's attention at a convention, and draw them in, and then also compare that a little bit to what you did to try and grab, to whatever extent you were able to do this, to grab people's attention and like draw them in and keep them engaged in an online convention? Wade, I want to start with you because you actually sent us something really cool that we're going to play in a minute. But tell us a little bit about that first part of that question. Like when you're going to a normal convention, what kind of things do you do to like grab people and reel them in, so to speak?
I mean, generally, I'm not very much of a push the sale, but I will usually stand up. Like if it's a booth situation, I'm usually standing, making eye contact, saying hello. Feel free to look around if you have any questions. But just even that first initial, like, make eye contact, say, hey, how's it going? Do you want to, feel free to look around. Here's, this is what I do. Don't push it, but make sure that they know that, hey, that person will talk to me, and you'll be surprised how many times that just brings somebody over. If things are really slow, I might do the like, hey, get eye contact, say, come here, and take a look at, but that's very rare. Um, But in this case, the only thing, and I was racking my brain to try to come up with some, you know, just watching someone stream, I think is pretty special, but I may be a little, off. But just watching someone create something is something I always found to be just, magical. But in this case, I knew that maybe people would be coming by not knowing what's going on, not, but I wanted to try and give them the con experience. So I did a ridiculous little thing called booth cam. How creative. But on a host or a raid, I would now, I didn't do it all the time, but on like bigger raids, bigger hosts, I'd usually say, "Hey, let's go into the booth cam," and then I'd do a little shtick. But it was silly. It was fun. I had a lot of fun with it. I think the people liked it. I don't know that it brought any more people in, but it may have kept people there longer. That was kind of the goal.
Anybody that's listening to this episode that is maybe unfamiliar with any of the jargon that you're hearing, rating, hosting, even I guess streaming, and like what is Discord, all that kind of stuff, go back to episode number 1. We go into a deep dive about all of those things. So
I think it did help. I think it did help retain people. If I did it soon enough, I think people stayed a little longer. I probably would have used it more if I had better ideas after the fact. But if it happens again, we'll bring it up. We'll do something new with it.
Yeah, no, that was awesome. Well, Sarah and Leslie, Leslie, maybe you can go first. Like, what kind of things were you doing to try and, or what kind of things do you do at normal conventions, and what kind of things were you doing to make sure people like knew how to find you, where to find you, or get them to come in for the online?
So, of course, a really big, bold banner is really important. I usually have, for the Renaissance fairs that I do, I actually own a permanent booth. So I cover the outside of the booth with banners just of my artwork, just giant pieces of artwork. And then on the front, I'll have a piece with all of my information on it, and it'll go from ceiling to floor. But I think that when you're kind of going into the more virtual side of things, you can still kind of use the same sort of thing. Just get a really, really eye-catching banner for the front of your store. I can only talk to the storefront side of the online conventions because I've only done the Dragon Con, and that's pretty much where I lived in that convention, was the storefront. So just having a really flashy banner and really sharp, professional looking product photos, because they don't get to hold it in their hand, they don't get to see it in person, so it's really important to have those really nice product photos. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Do you still speak in Renaissance voice on the virtual con?
Yeah, absolutely. Every time I make a sale, I look straight at the camera, straight at the computer screen, and thank you, milady. Thank you, milady. But I don't do the accent because I can't do it, so that's as far as it goes.
Well, Sarah, what about you? What have your real world convention experiences been like, as far as setting up a booth and making it appealing, and how did that compare and contrast to what you were doing similarly for the online conventions?
So I tried. Well, I agree with the big colorful banners that have all your information, and I had that on my booth and on like the background behind my booth for Monster Palooza. And I also did the same thing. I made like my own like landing page for the con, for both Gen Con and Dragon Con. So rather than going to just my portfolio immediately, you'd go to like the Gen Con page that had a Gen Con banner that like showed my sales that I was doing that weekend, had an embed of my stream, had an about me section that people could easily get, because I wanted to try and get that connection, like anything to get that connection, so they could learn about me, they could see what I was doing, go to my virtual booth, which I had a picture of my booth, my physical booth, and then watch me live was what I did for the online ones. The other things that I did, which I think was super helpful, was I always try and have a pretty strong newsletter, and I sent out one a day, like a featured item. Like, just so you know, I make illustrated novels. Just so you know, I have new figurines in the shop. And, by the way, here are my Gen Con sales. Oh, my Patreon, actually, that was a bright spot during Gen Con. I had some Patreon exclusive tiers, like join during Gen Con weekend and get this reward. And then afterwards, that tier just gets absorbed into a similar tier. It just doesn't have the Gen Con reward anymore. And I think I got 11 or 12 new patrons during Gen Con, so that was fantastic.
Very cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, congrats. That's awesome.
That's really smart.
Yeah, when you said
So-
that. Well, let me ask just real quick. When you're saying that you were sending out a newsletter every day, that was during the course of the convention.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So it would be, I don't know, like Friday to Monday, I think, where they run, or was it Thursday to Monday? Yeah, but it was just a short thing, kind of like a gallery, like, hey, here's my work, and I sell this.
Right on. Sorry, Moose, what were you saying?
So this is all comparing what we did to normal conventions to what we're doing with online conventions. But I'm curious how the sales held up. Like, you don't have to talk in dollar amounts, but you can talk like percentages. Like, what percent of the online sales were recouped from the in-person sales? I guess we can start this in round table because everybody's gonna have their own experience with this. Leslie, Sarah, and then Wade.
So it was difficult for me because I've never done Dragon Con in person before, but I can compare it to the sales that I would do on a normal weekend at the Ren Fair. And I would say my sales over the weekend were probably a quarter of what I would do in person. So it was more than I expected, because I honestly didn't expect to make any sales at an online convention, especially a convention that I've never been to and I don't have a fan base at. So it did better than I expected, but not as much as I would have liked.
So for me, I don't have any trouble talking about numbers. Based on the metrics I got from Gen Con, I got about $50 worth of sales through the Gen Con portal, but then I got about $450 versus of sales through my own advertising on my social media and my newsletter. And then, of course, there was the bump in patrons, which was great. Dragon Con, the only way I got sales was because I made that storefront, that new shop for them was Eventini. So I did do that, and I made back the table, basically. So I've only done the smaller convention, the two small local conventions here in Monsterpalooza, and I would say that it's less than half than I made at those ones.
Yeah, so I actually had a con that snuck in before the pandemic as well, Pensacon, and I did really well. So I like Sarah, I was like, oh, this is going to be, this will be a solid year. It's going to be good. Thinking Gen Con was coming up. And I made about probably a little under a third of what I would normally make on a con weekend. So for the effort and hours put in, I still made more than I thought I would make, but I would probably go all in even more, just because I don't know what else I would have been doing that weekend that I didn't, I wasn't going to be there attending anyway. So anyway, that's just my kind of results on that.
Yeah, I guess one of the bonuses is that you don't have to travel to these locations. You don't have to pay for the flight, and you don't have to pay for the apartment. So I guess that's kind of money back in the bank at that point.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other things I think you could do if you wanted to optimize that. I don't know if that's something we want to talk about.
Sure,
For
go
online
for, go for it.
And I usually sell prints that I bring, but I already had a print shop, an online print order shop, and I just said I'm selling through that, so I don't have to deal with shipping. I don't have to deal with packaging. I don't have to do it. I mean, I had an Etsy shop, of course. I still had to do that kind of stuff, but just having that print shop was a savior as a part, as opposed to me selling the prints, packaging, shipping. And of course, like you said, all the travel expenses. I
Yeah.
don't generally like to do that though, because of the whole like I don't know what the print quality is going to be. But I figured, hey, you know, this is an online situation, and I did let everybody know that was buying something that you know these have been sight unseen, most of them. So
for Sarah and Leslie, when you guys were using the numbers, Sarah, I think you said it was a third, and Leslie, you said maybe a quarter, or I have that reversed. Is when you use those quantifications, are you taking into account you know, what you otherwise would have spent for, you know, travel and setup and hotel and all that kind of stuff? Sarah, you can go first.
Oh, for me, it was that was just like a gross profit.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't. Well, actually, not really, because the Massachusetts one I just drive to. Um, it's
Oh,
right
right.
down the road from me. So the only other one, the California one, um, that one was weird. That was my first flying con, so a lot of that cost was bigger than it needed to be because I made mistakes. It was my first flight con, so
Mm-hmm.
the numbers on that one are a little bit hard to figure out what it would be if I did it again.
Mm-hmm.
Mine was definitely taking that into account.
Mm-hmm.
For the Ren Fair, I also live very close to it, so there's really no travel cost, but I do have to pay the Ren Fair a percent of what I make. And so, you know, that is even keeping that into account. It was still a quarter.
Mm-hmm. It'll be
So
interesting
Sarah
to
mentioned,
it'll real quick. It'll be interesting to revisit this, like basically have a redux of this whole thing, this whole interview, 6 months or how, like if it continues as it is, and like online conventions keep being the thing, it'll be interesting to return to this, to have like more one-to-one comparisons as far as like, you know, what actually like sort of like equates, and once there's like more experience with the whole thing, you know, to get like a better idea of the numbers, because this is also new, and it's tempting to, you know, want to hypothesize about, you know, well, are those numbers, do those numbers reflect people's experience, like the visitors experience, you know, and who was likely to go to an online convention versus not, and all those kinds of things, that all of the variables that are involved in that are kind of like impossible to discuss in too much detail because we don't know. But so a lot of this is like conjecture, but that's also kind of the fun of it, you know, sort of like moving forward, you know, and like what could this look like in the future. Moose, were you going
well,
to say something?
before I get to my question, Steve in chat asked a question about paying for the booth at DragonCon, and I'm actually kind of curious about this with the other conventions as well. My understanding is most of the time when you're paying for this convention, you're also paying for next convention because they generally just rolled them over. Was that the case in this situation too?
Yeah, in Gen Con, Dragon Con, they just rolled over. And Monsterpalooza didn't do it; they just rolled over.
So it was free online, is what we're saying this for this year.
I know Dragon Con was, but I'm going to be participating in the online AluxCon, and they did not do that. So I'm actually paying for my online space for that show, but it's supposed to be quite a bit bigger, and it's running for quite a few months, I think like 6 months or something like that. So if we do have a recap, I'll let you guys know how that one goes, because it's a good table fee, so hopefully I'll be able to make that back.
Yeah, good luck. Yikes. So the question I was going to have was going back to Sarah's point about Patreon and how that's an additional source of income for her. I'm curious, what other avenues of income have you guys been pursuing as a method to supplement your income in the loss of the full-fledged conventions? And I guess we can go round table from Sarah, Leslie to Wade.
So yeah, like I said, Patreon's my big one. If there's a bright spot to my 2020, it's been my Patreon. It's basically doubled this year, which is amazing. I've done a couple pledge drives. People have been really responsive, and I think partially people have been really responsive because they don't, they can't like go and buy a print from me at a table. So they'll support me another way, and Patreon's an easy way to do that. Aside from that, um, I'm pretty much set up to funnel, like my whole business funnel is to go into Patreon. So like, you're on my newsletter, you're on my Twitch stream, any of my social media, it all goes to there. But other than Patreon, Twitch, I've been streaming a little bit less, but I'm going to pick that up soon.
For me, definitely Patreon is one of my big ones. But this year, I think the main thing that I've changed in terms of my business model is I've been focusing a lot more on Kickstarters. So I've been trying to do a Kickstarter every couple months, 2 to 3 months. I try to fulfill my last Kickstarter before I start my next one, but that's the main change I've made. I've been picking up streaming a little bit more as well, like Sarah, and yeah, trying to push the online sales.
Yeah, so I'm in a position where like the cons are, I don't really factor them into my income as much, but I do miss them when they're not there. So I've just kind of opened up my commissions a little bit more, and I'm fortunate to have been getting some of that going. I don't have a Patreon, so I don't do anything through that. But the
The one
commissions have
artist
helped.
left without a Patreon.
I don't know why I don't. I'm just saying I don't.
And here I am, the only one with an OnlyFans account.
Oh, I didn't. I thought we were supposed to not mention about anything about that.
No, that's the next set of questions for you in particular, Wade.
There's no smooth transition from this to another topic, so we can just
I'm always saying so don't take that as a having been thrown off course here. so a little bit more on that idea, and sort of for my own edification as well. Like when you guys are trying to drive, or Leslie, you in particular said you're trying to drive more online print sales. I hear from a lot of artists that that's tricky to do. It's like kind of hard to get people to go to your store and like buy stuff. As much as they want to buy stuff from you, it seems like this weird thing where like I know that there's people out there that would buy my stuff if they saw it like right in front of them, but then like nobody visits my store. What kinds of things do you do to get people to drive the online sales, as you said?
Definitely taking advantage of that newsletter is a huge one, like Sarah was talking about earlier. Posting regularly to social media, and the Twitch stream really does a lot to get people going out to your store as well. It is tough. I've actually found I've been getting a lot of just random people going. Like I have no idea where they're coming from, but my online sales have gone up since I've stopped doing conventions. So I think that is a lot of like people who have taken business cards over the year, and over the past years they're going out there and they're checking it out because they haven't been able to attend conventions, so they're looking to get something. But yeah, those are basically the main places that I go to try to find people to buy my stuff.
Well, if this does become a continual thing, like do you guys, speaking for each of yourselves individually, you guys think that you'll continue to do them if it continues to be the way of the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I think I would, knowing that I always want to approach things, especially in this case, low expectations, but still go in as pretty much try to go all in. Um, if it were a pay situation, like if they're like, "Hey, we'll give you a space for X amount of dollars," I'd really reconsider it. I don't know if I would. But if it was like, hey, do this under our banner, do this under our name, sure. You know, if I'm going to be streaming anyway, why not?
Leslie, how about you?
I agree. It really has to do with the table fee, as you say. You know, you're going to get a lot less sales than you would in an in-person convention. So I really don't think that I would want to pay the same amount for a table fee as if I was going in. I think I would definitely do it. I feel pretty positively about it, but I would try to limit how much time I put into setting up like a storefront. And like I said, just focus on like a few different series and try to limit it to a day. Like you not only have to think about how much time it takes to set up the store, but how much time it's going to take to fulfill all those orders. It kind of feels like fulfilling a Kickstarter at the end of these conventions, and it can take a long time to fill those up. And if you don't have the time in your schedule to do it, it can be a pretty daunting task. So yeah, just make sure that I have the time for it, but I would definitely do it.
Sarah, how about you?
Yeah, shipping day was a long day, those 2 days. But yeah, I agree. If it was free, I'd do it. If it's not free, it would really depend on if they kind of changed how they were maybe marketing the artists. I got a impression, and you had said something earlier that like we're kind of the con, and it didn't feel like that to me because it felt like the attendees and I 100% get why they did this. They were like, the attendees get what the attendees need, so they were like, go play this game, go to this lecture, go see this panel, go do this. And the artists and the artist alley and the vendors were just kind of, these are links on the side. And so if they changed their policy and they had some sort of more of like, go see the artists, or like this is where you can meet the artists, or we're going to do interviews with the artists or something like that, because it's like we were just like kind of in the background, easy to miss. And so I wouldn't pay for that experience. But if they changed how they did it, then I might.
That's a good point, because this is all last minute, but the what I've seen was that the artists were like the afterthought. Like we owe you this obligation, and you're technically not paying for it, so just take what we give you, as opposed to something that they craft an experience that would drive people to your booth, basically.
I had that feeling as well. So I agree there.
Yeah, I think it's just like you said, last minute, not really knowing how to handle that. I mean, in a real convention, you can sort of guide flow, so they can guide people through an artist alley and say you have to go through this to get to this other place. Can't really do that online. You just have links.
Is there anything that they can do that you would suggest?
That was going to be
I guess we
next.
can do a roundtable again. Leslie to Sarah to Wade.
I would love to see more interaction with the artist, whether it be like kind of like the artist set up some sort of demonstration or tutorial or something, and maybe having an optional video or chat or something set up beside the storefront, maybe on the same page, so that it's not disconnected and it's not hard to jump from one to the other. I would really love that, because I think that that's going to have that personal touch that you're losing with the online convention. And I think that would help drive sales and stuff, because I think that's what people are looking for. They're looking to have an experience, and they're not really having that experience with the artists with these online conventions. They're just seeing like a flat storefront, or they're just seeing a stream and they don't know how to get to the store. Like it's not as easily apparent. So I think having them combined would be really a strong thing.
I absolutely love that idea. I didn't really have a good idea, but what you just said was amazing. The other thing I would really love would be if at like on Gen Con they were like, oh, go see this person talk, and you could like be in the schedule. And for an artist to be in the schedule, I asked about that, and they basically sent me an email that was like, it's kind of hard to do, you need to have your shit really together, here's all the guidelines you have to do. And it was like super scary, and I would really wish that they would just like make it easier to just like be like, hey, this artist is streaming on Twitch right now. It's not like a wicked official, thing. It's just this stream is happening right now.
Yeah, just a way to highlight that, hey, these people are streaming, or they're, like Leslie said, they're doing a presentation, and even just highlighting them, rotating through one per hour if everybody, were streaming or there was something to show. Just a way to say that this is happening live and you can go watch it is huge. Front page it, do something.
My imagination is going to like a Google Maps kind of scenario. Like, I don't even know like how feasible this would be, but where you have like a top down view, it's like a map of the convention, and you like kind of pretend that there's a convention hall, and there's like all of the normal stuff, like the games are happening over here, and the this and that is all over here, and then Artist Alley is over here, and it's literally like little fake booths, and then there's like the artist headshot in it, or whatever kind of booth space it is. There's like the headshot, and then you hover over it, and it has a little pop-up blurb. And then you can click that person and it'll take you to the page, and then there's your storefront, and there's your live stream, and there's all of the things that, I don't know, it's all wishful thinking, but that'd be
I've
awesome.
I've heard a number of people say what you just said. Like, that's the thing that they miss, is they miss the map.
Right.
And so I definitely second what you just said. And the other thing I'd love is if that map, once you clicked it, it would like change the color of the booth. Because if you walk through with like a pen, you can be like, been here, been here, been here.
Yes.
So no one gets missed. And I had a few people approach me, and they're just like, I just missed you. Like, there was so much I just missed.
You could also do something with sorry, you go ahead.
I was just saying, I think I was preoccupied that weekend, but I did not go to the Lightbox Artist Alley, and I've heard that was they had like a virtual representation of, I don't know in what form, of the booths. If anybody knows that, or has information on that, speak up.
I went through every single booth.
Oh yeah.
I went through every single booth and tried to follow every single artist who was on there, and it was cool. I thought it was kind of annoying, honestly. It was like a neat gimmicky thing, and then they would have like some people, you could be like, oh, okay, I see the icon for their Twitter, boom, right there. Some people would just have a picture that would be unlabeled, and you'd click it, and then you'd see what the label was underneath it, and it might be like, my biography or my shop or my Twitter, and it was almost cool. Like, just tweak it and it'll be cool.
So it wasn't a map or any kind of layout of any type?
Not really. They had the, like, how in Gen Con they'll have like row 500, row 600. They had that, but aside from that and like aisles, they didn't have didn't have a top-down map or anything like that.
Yeah, Lightbox was very hands-off. They let a whole lot of the control go in the hands of the artists and the presenters as well. So the presenters got to choose which platform they wanted to stream on. They could stream on Twitch, they could stream on YouTube, they could stream on Zoom, and there was something else. The downside of the Zoom one, just as a tangent, was they were limited to 100 participants, which seemed not great. But yeah, the Lightbox was very much artist driven, so the artists had a whole lot of control over how they presented their stuff.
Is there any word in?
And I forgot the follow-up question I had previously.
Well, expand. Or is there any idea or rumor of how long cancellations will continue, or how any idea at all of like any word of conventions alluding to the fact that maybe they'll have a live one at some point in the future?
Joby, there is a horror con happening here like next weekend. I have no idea what's going on.
Oh, really?
So they're happening. It's just a matter of whether or not it's a good idea or not to go.
Yeah. Some people are just doing it. I can't say when it's going to be a good idea, but there's some conventions rolling those dice already.
How do
Yeah, it's a
you
little
guys?
wild.
Yeah, Wade and Sarah, how do you guys feel about that idea? Have any inclination to go to an in-person con at this point?
No, even Pensacon, that was right at the end of February, there were already people kind of like eyeballing. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
should we be here right now?
Hmm.
But it was fine. But I did just talk to a smaller convention, Memphis Comic Expo, yesterday, and they would have been doing their con in 3 weeks. They've canceled it, and they're just like playing it year to year at this point. So they said hopefully next year.
Like, I miss them. I really want. I. It's funny where I was thinking about just getting into cons like finally this year. I really wanted to be able to make that connection with like all new people, and I really want that. But I have a couple people in my life who are real high risk, and I
Mhm.
love them more than I love money. So I can't do that.
Yeah, no, totally.
If conventions were outside, if everybody had to wear masks, if everybody was in a bubble, that'd be one thing. But we all know that people have a hard enough time taking showers for these conventions. So them doing proper hygiene and not sneezing in public with a mask off, that's too much to expect of people. So I imagine we're going to be like another year away before we see large, multi tens of thousands of people at a convention again. At least in the United States. Other countries probably sooner.
A year away, so that
Yeah, I don't trust it yet.
yeah. If
Same.
if it was best case scenario and it
Definitely.
was say a year away, how many conventions would that otherwise mean for you guys? Like over the course of a year, for those of you that have been, to have done it semi regularly, how many would you guys normally have gone to, either as a vendor or just an attendee?
This year I was gonna do 5. So, that's one of the things that's been stressing me out is like, so all these conventions got rolled over. So are they gonna be willing to roll them over again to the next year? Because I mean, I still like they still have my money.
Oh,
So that's that's a worry. But I mean, if they did, Gen Con and Dragon Con and Monsterpalooza online again, I would do it again. And I would let them keep my money for 2022. But my worry is if they pull the trigger and they're like, we're doing it anyways, and then I'm gonna have to, eat it, I guess.
oh,
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. It's kind of the same. Like, I'd do it again if they went virtual, but if they said, I mean, I'd have to look at the climate, see how everything's going. But probably not going to be attending if we're still in bad situation.
well, yeah. I guess I was just sort of like underlining the question of like how many you would have otherwise gone to. Like if
Right, right.
if COVID wasn't a thing, looking forward through to we're going fast into 2021 now. How many conventions would you say you might check out?
Yeah. For me, it would have been, I think it would have been 5 or 6, just depending on if I got into one, certain ones or not. But that's about the normal. Anywhere 3 to 5 or 6 is about my min and max.
For me, it really depends on if you count the Renaissance Fair as one show or 8 shows, because it's 8 weekends long. But I have the Ren Fair, goes all summer long, and then I do usually a couple more smaller local shows like gaming testing conventions. They're play testing pretty much, and I go there to find some work. Sometimes I'll get commissions from some of the games that still haven't developed far enough to have the artwork yet. And I've just started to look into the larger conventions. Like I said, this is my first year applying and getting into Dragon Con, and I would like to do Gen Con and some of those other shows too. The only problem with those shows is that they overlap my Renaissance Fair. So I would have to hire someone to work my booth and me not be there. And that's something that I really haven't had the confidence to do yet, like to trust someone to be representing my brand and to be selling my products correctly while I not under my supervision. So Yeah, I'm hoping to ramp it up eventually, but there's quite a few things that I need to figure out first.
What does that gig pay?
We can talk about it. Lots of hugs.
I've seen some inclination
Cash up front.
around speaking to the idea of them kind of becoming more, even if COVID disappeared, or not. Let's not speak in too much frivolity. If COVID became, if the threat of COVID was reduced to the point that going to a convention was more or less back to normal, I have heard some inclination that it'd be cool if a virtual platform was available, just as part of like a regular thing, because there's lots of people that may want to go to a convention, but for a whole host of reasons may not be able to logistically or physically or what have you. Would you guys do more if that was the case, where an online platform for any given convention was an option? Would you guys do more conventions even if physical attendance was back to normal, as it were? Would that increase the amount of conventions that you would either attend, as a vendor or just a visitor? Wade, I see you thinking hard on this
covered
one.
this a little bit earlier, though, with them saying that they would do it depending on the price, right?
Yeah, that's where it would fall with me is availability and cost in general, and what their plans were. What's going to set them apart, make it a reason for me to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's true. We did go over it. I guess I was more thinking in terms of like all things being equal. Like this is a reasonable way for you to come to a convention, and we've got the bases covered as far as like cost and stuff like that. And if it was just a viable way for you to participate in a convention, would that increase the number of conventions that you would be likely to participate in?
I mean, I think as far as like vending, yeah, probably, depending on the con. But I want to say from the attendee side, I think that's going to be a thing. I think Gen Con is going to do virtual and physical. I mean, I can't speak for them, but they had a really good turnout for games being played online. Imagine that. So I think they're probably going to do it. And I don't see why the other ones wouldn't either,
Sarah or Leslie, either of you guys have a thought on that?
I don't know if it would impact how many shows I did, but I would definitely partake. If it was like optional online, I would definitely partake in the optional side. I would probably, just like I said before, limit how much effort I put into it, because getting ready for a convention, going to the convention, coming back from the convention, dealing with all of your stuff can take, for me, it takes a week or more to get ready for a show. So to add an extra setup for a virtual convention happening at the same time would be very difficult for me. And I don't know if I'd be able to fit into my schedule per se. So I would probably very much limit what I did for an online convention, but I don't think it would adjust my numbers in any way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the exact same thing. Because if you're gonna, it's asking a lot, and if there's if I want to go to a convention, I really actually want to go to it. I mean, otherwise I can just stream if I wanted to meet people virtually.
It'd be great if there was some kind of standardization, where you have like the online stream kit or the online kit, and you just have all of your information plugged in, and then you just send it to them in a block and they get to plug it into that virtual map that we were talking about before. And that's just, you have it like a profile, like a Facebook profile or, any other social media profile. And then you're just like, yep, here's my convention information. And they just stick it in there. That seems like would be the thing to do, because then it wouldn't really cost anything on anybody's, on either one's end. It's just the processing, a minimal processing fee. Maybe that seems like an easy way to drop out the cost that they would inflict upon you guys, and still encourage like more participation, because I don't know.
Because what the world needs now is another social network.
Well, it would. I'm thinking more like Facebook before Facebook was Facebook, and when you had to have like a .edu account or whatever, it'd be a particular thing for a particular group of people. Yeah, not like you have to regularly. Well, you can update it and maintain it to whatever degree you want. But anyway, totally theoretical. But anybody that's listening, I give you permission to use that idea. I didn't really have too much more to keep you guys, to take up too much more of your guys' time, unless Moose had any other questions or anything else you want to throw in.
Yeah, May mentioned that you were going to be doing some more Kickstarter stuff. So what kind of Kickstarter stuff would you suggest people look into? Like, what has your experience been so far with setting it up?
So since I'm trying to do a whole bunch right now, instead of like one large one that would take like multiple years to get all the artwork done, I'm focusing on small, they're called quick starters, and they have a very low goal, and they don't take a lot of time to set up. They don't take a lot of time to fulfill. They have only a small amount of rewards, so that I don't have a lot of different orders to have to put together. And I've found a lot of success in that. They've been doing really well. I've been focusing on pins. I've actually been converting some of the artwork that I already have finished into pin designs, because they've been a pretty popular series in my online conventions in the past. And since people all have their favorite, I'm doing bird dragons. They've all had their favorite bird dragons. They've seen these in person. They've already kind of established a connection with the pieces. I've already had a back and forth with them about the pieces. So they all want the bird dragon that they have a print of, or that they had a connection with in person. And I've found that the small Kickstarters are really, really powerful right now.
We're going to be talking more about Kickstarters in the future. I think we have like 1 or 2 episodes entirely devoted to them. So hopefully that'll be useful to more people out there that found interest in this topic. And I remembered my my follow-up question from earlier. It's on mailing lists.
Oh,
So
yes.
Sarah, how did you grow your mailing list? Like, how big is it now, and how much time and effort does it take to manage?
So my mailing list, I regularly cull it, because uh, you have a cap before you have to pay on MailChimp. And the thing is, like, a lot of people are think having a huge mailing list is awesome, except it's not if those people aren't interacting with your newsletter. So you want a smaller group of active people. So I do regularly get rid of people who don't open the letters. But right now it's about 800. And the way I got it started, and it happened like in a flash, I got together with one of my friends who's a game designer, and we made a D&D module. And he did all the statting and writing and the whole story. I did all the art. We put it together. I made game tokens and a map, and we offered it for free if you sign up on the newsletter. And I put it in the D&D Facebook group, and it was like 100 to 700 in one weekend. And then after that, it's been it's just been like kind of steady things. I try and do something maybe every other month, and it'll be like, join my mailing list and get a brush, join my mailing list and get these creature prompts. I did a big collab piece this year with a bunch of game writers, and I had 365 creature prompts that you could do, and then they statted out 9 of them, and I illustrated them. So if you join the mailing list, you get that for free. So basically, I offer stuff, and then people join my mailing list.
Where are you offering
What
these
is the
things? Sorry, when
Joby, go ahead and answer your question.
when you say you're making these offerings, what types of places are you putting up those offers?
Oh, that usually is Facebook is probably my biggest one, then Twitter, then Instagram, and Twitch as well.
Okay.
So now I have two follow-up questions. One was in direct regard to what you just said. When you say Facebook, do you mean Facebook groups or do your own Facebook page?
So my own Facebook page, my business page, and also my personal page, because I'm not like just like some people are like art business, and I'm a blend. I'm all mixed up. So my Facebook personal page is pretty art business heavy.
Hmm.
And what's the limit on the free mailing list?
Off the top of my head, I think it's like
2,000.
2,000.
Yeah, for MailChimp, it's
Yeah,
2,000.
yeah.
I was thinking because there was another podcast, 3 Point Perspective, and they had suggested an alternative to MailChimp, but I couldn't remember what their cap was, other than they said it was higher than MailChimp, but I don't have that information off the top of my head. I wish I'd written it down because I wrote down in private messages to people, hey, check out this alternative to MailChimp, and I'm looking, why didn't I write down the name of it? So anyway, yeah.
If you're using Squarespace, they have a mailing list service as well that I think that they charge a small additional fee, but then it's like I think it's unlimited. They charge a small additional fee like from the beginning, I think, but then it's like unlimited however many people you want to keep a hold of. But anyway.
So for mailing lists, do you send them like regular messages, or do you only send them messages when you have something for them to sell or something?
I have a goal, a monthly goal. I try and do 2 newsletters a month. It used to be 1, but for 2020, you don't see anyone in person, so I thought I'd do 2. And if I have something to sell, and basically it's like if I have an online con, I try and sell something. And if not, I usually talk about my Patreon is centered around a personal project that I'm doing, so it's like a alien creature book. So I talk about that, and then like that's the whole workflow. Like eventually, maybe some of them will filter in and become patrons, but I usually just tell them stories about aliens.
Always a good way
All
to
right,
go.
so I think we're out of questions. So I guess what we can do is do a quick round of self-promotion, what you guys have coming up, so we can, or tell people where to find your stuff, what kind of stuff you have available, and then we can do a round table of Leslie, Sarah, Wade.
Okay, so I stream on Twitch. Mighty May is my username on Twitch. I do that every Thursday. My website is www.lesliecasilli.com, and I will be attending the online Lexicon show at the end of October. So all my new originals will be available there. I haven't shown them to anyone yet, so that'll be the first place you're going to be able to see them.
So all my stuff is really easy. It's just my name. And I actually have a really rare last name. So there's only 5 Sarah Dahlingers in the world, and only one makes monsters. So that's me. But yeah, it's just SarahDahlinger.com, or, patreon.com/Sarah Dahlinger. And just if you search my name in any platform that you're on, you can find me.
That's really interesting. 5. I think there's more
Yes.
5. There's more than 5 Joby Doors in the world. So figure that one out. Wade, how about you?
Yeah, but there's only one you, Joby.
Hey,
There's only one you.
that's me.
Yeah, just like Sarah, if you search Wade Acuff on Instagram, Twitch. I also stream on Behance. You can find me there, and you can ask me any questions. But yeah, that's all I've got really going on right now. All the cons are closed, guys.
Well, aside from a personal promotion or even like personal projects, I like to ask people sometimes, what are you excited about right now? Like, what's just going on in the world, things that you're aware of that are happening that you're stoked on? Let's go in reverse order. Wade, Sarah, Leslie.
That's a good question. Right now I'm kind of stuck in that, like, what am I excited for? I know that there's an Adobe Max coming up, and I'm hoping they make some crazy announcements about 3D stuff. But that's just my own personal hopes. I'd love to see them get into the, like, 3D modeling, aspect of things. But I'm really into finding new artists. So always, if you come to the stream, share something. That's really what keeps me going right now, is finding new work, new people. Always digging through Instagram. But yeah, that's what I'm excited about. Just seeing new things.
I won't lie. This year, you really gotta kind of dig for that. But the thing that I'm most excited about is my personal work right now. I really like how that's coming, and that's getting. I want to be able to use personal work to attract like the game or movie or book publishing jobs that I'm getting. So I've gotten some nice feedback from that. So that's really awesome to be able to like make a personal piece and then have someone approach you and say, I saw that personal piece, I want to hire you for my thing, which is really cool. And other than that, I am on week 51 of 52 of weightlifting every single week. So that's pretty good too.
Whoa. Very much congratulations. That's awesome.
Better than I am.
Yeah.
What week are you on, Moose?
I just started again, so I'm on week 2.
You got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, keep it up.
They'll have to call me Mighty Moose. No, sorry.
Yes. For me, the things that I'm excited for is so every year I spend a huge chunk of my year getting product ready for my Renaissance fair that runs for the 8 weekends every summer. And I have all of my product ready already because we didn't have the show. So all of my 2020 product is now going to get pushed to 2021. So that is going to open up a ton of time for me this year to focus on other projects that I haven't been able to spend as much time with. So I'm really excited to spend more time with my tarot and keep on plugging away on that. And hopefully in a couple years, I'll have it finished. I think I'm like halfway, almost 3/4. It's taking a long time, but I'm excited to have more time for that.
That's a big job though. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna have Leslie on again in the future just to talk about that, because it's like I have many questions about that one, and valuable lessons that Leslie and her husband can impart on time management. I've learned a lot from both of them on time management, and if you have like a bunch of projects going. But anyway, that's for another time. I would love to have we would love to have all of you on again respectively at some point in the future to talk about all the cool stuff that you guys are doing. But for now, we'll wrap it up, and just a big thanks for spending some time and talking about your online convention experiences. And we'll see where this goes, and hopefully it gets better. And if it's something that you guys continue to do in the future, we should all meet again and talk about it some more as a review. All right, you guys. I'm gonna end it.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I'm gonna end it there.